There is a truth so quietly devastating, so wildly liberating that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You will never be truly loved until you are truly seen, and you will never be truly seen until you are truly yourself. Not the version of you shaped by fear, not the mask you've worn to earn approval, not the character you play to avoid abandonment. You will only be loved to the extent that you are real. And you can only be real to the extent that you are willing to risk not being loved at all. This is the paradox. The love you crave cannot find you until you stop performing to receive it. Most people are trapped in a psychological prison, a quiet, invisible cell built not with walls, but with masks. The tragedy is that we don't even realize we're in it. It's not forced on us violently. It's taught gently, gradually, by people who often loved us but didn't know how to love all of us. It begins early. You learn that love is conditional, not through speeches or punishments, but through the subtle rewards of approval. When you were quiet instead of expressive, you got praised. When you were helpful instead of needy, you were told you were such a good child. When you excelled at school, when you smiled through pain, when you adapted to your parents' moods, you were accepted. And so the lesson embedded itself into your nervous system. To be loved, I must become what others want from me. We internalize this as children long before we can question it. And so we split ourselves. We discard what makes others uncomfortable. Our sadness, our rage, our desires, our vulnerability, even our joy if it's too much. We learn to shrink our truth into something more socially acceptable, more digestible. We become palatable, performative, pliable. And because we do it for so long, we forget it started as a survival strategy. It becomes our identity. We show up in relationships wearing this carefully constructed version of ourselves, the version that gets liked, hired, invited, desired. We date from this identity. We marry from this identity. We build entire lives, friendships, families, careers around this identity. And then we wonder, why do I feel so empty? Why do I feel unseen even when someone says they love me? Why do I keep performing in my own home, in my own bed, in my own mirror? Because deep down something in you knows. You are not being loved. Your mask is, and that is the most profound loneliness there is. Think of the man who's always charming and funny at dinner parties, but breaks down in silence every time he's alone, because no one knows how anxious and lost he feels inside. Or the woman who's always the helper, the caretaker, the strong one, but secretly resents the fact that no one ever checks on her needs. She doesn't realize it's because she trained the world to believe she doesn't have any. Or the child who grew up being the golden student, the achiever, the pride of the family, but now struggles with depression in adulthood, because she never learned to exist without chasing external validation. These are not rare cases. These are millions of us quietly suffering from emotional starvation while surrounded by people who love us, because what they love isn't the full truth of who we are, but the curated version we've shown them. And wearing that mask is exhausting. It requires constant calculation. It makes you distrust love, because even when you receive it, part of you whispers, if they knew the real me, would they still stay? So you never fully relax. You never fully exhale. You never fully receive the love that's offered, because you don't believe it's really yours. You can't feel loved if you're hiding. You can't feel safe if you're always acting. You can't feel whole if parts of you are exiled. The only way out is radical and terrifying. You must risk being fully seen, not perfect, not pleasant, not polished, but honest, raw, human. You must learn to disappoint others rather than abandon yourself, to risk losing fake love in order to make space for real love. You must start peeling off the mask, piece by piece. Let someone see your anger without apologizing for it. Speak your truth even if your voice shakes. Ask for something without earning it first. Sit in silence with someone without performing. Let your weirdness, your chaos, your softness show. Because only when the real you is visible can you test whether love is real. And when someone chooses to stay after meeting your shadow, that's when love begins to heal. So what is the one thing you must do to be truly loved? It is not becoming more attractive. It is not being more agreeable, more successful, or more spiritually evolved. It is this. You must love yourself so honestly, so fiercely, so fully, that you no longer betray yourself for connection. Not just accept yourself. Not just tolerate your flaws, but love yourself like someone who finally believes they deserve to exist without shrinking. This is the work. This is the fire you must walk through. This is the threshold most never cross. Because it doesn't just cost you your illusions, it costs you your identity. It demands everything you've built to protect yourself. It asks that you stop lying to yourself about what you feel, what you want, what you deserve. That you stop dressing your pain in performance, hoping someone will see through the costume and rescue you. That you stop settling for almost love, that counterfeit closeness, just to fill the silence of being alone. The real work is not about fixing yourself. It's about finding the parts of you were told to bury, and sitting with them until they stop shaking. It's about choosing self-respect over connection, even when your nervous system screams that rejection means death. It's about learning that being alone is not the same as being unworthy, and that being loved without being fully seen is just another form of abandonment. Because until you learn to stand in the rawness of your own being, unfiltered, unapologetic, awake, you will keep attracting relationships where you are half loved, because you are only half present. And here's the most terrifying and liberating truth. You are already lovable. Not later, not thinner, not healed, not once you're more confident or less emotional or more together. Now, as you are. But here's the twist. You won't feel that love from others, from life itself, until you show up as you actually are. Not as the version they'll praise, not as the version they'll understand, as the truth of who you are, the unpolished, unedited, unrehearsed you. That's the only you that love can reach. You must love yourself enough to stop betraying yourself. Enough to say no when it's easier to comply, leave when staying would kill your spirit, tell the truth when silence would protect your image, show your wounds instead of hiding them behind competence or charm. Because only when you stop betraying yourself will the world know who you truly are, and only when the world sees you can real love find you. Why do so many people spend their entire lives avoiding this? Because being truly seen risks the deepest wound, rejection of your truth. If you're rejected while pretending, you can always say, they didn't really know me. But if you're rejected in your truth, that feels like annihilation. And so, unconsciously, people choose a safer alternative. They hide, they please, they perform, they stay half real, and wonder why love always feels half full. This is not a flaw, it's a trauma response. But the longer you live in it, the harder it becomes to believe that real love is even possible. Here's the most radical truth. To be truly loved, you must first be willing to be unloved. You must be willing to show someone who you really are, not to convince them to stay, but to reveal whether they ever truly belonged. This is spiritual courage. It is the moment when you stop negotiating your worth, when you stop marketing your soul, when you stop asking, what do they want from me? And start asking, what is true for me? At first this feels like death, but it's actually rebirth, because the people who walk away, they were never loving you, they were loving your mask, and those who stay, they are your home. And when you finally make this shift, not once but again and again as a way of living, something sacred happens. You stop needing love to feel valid, and yet you become more lovable than ever. Why? Because your presence becomes clean, uncontaminated by desperation, unburdened by disguise, free of the manipulations we all unconsciously create when we're afraid to be left behind. You become magnetic, not because you seek attention, but because your truth is rare. People feel safe with you, because you are safe with yourself. People are drawn to you, not because you please them, but because you radiate the freedom they long to feel. Being loved for who you pretend to be is not love. It's a transaction, a performance, a survival strategy. Real love, the kind that nourishes you, that holds you when you're broken, that expands your soul, can only begin where the mask ends. The question is not, am I lovable? The question is, am I brave enough to be seen? And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that the parts you've hidden the longest are the ones someone has been longing to love all along.